Alright, yeah, welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be jumping into a little bit of Historic. We're going to be playing around with a Rakdos Unsealing list. So, many people have been asking me whether or not I'm going to be building a Death Shadow list, and the answer was always yes. The moment I saw this in the listing, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it, because I built a deck around the build around of today, which is not Death Shadow, it's actually Rakdos Unsealing. I built around this one in the past, and the one thing I always said when I built that deck was I really wish we get Death Shadow to enable it. So before I get into the rest of the deck, let's get into the build around card of the day. So 4-mana enchantment says whenever you cast a creature spell with power 4, 5, or 6, Rakdos Unsealing deals 4 damage to any target. Pretty cool. It's a nice lava coil without the exile that can also hit face. Wonderful. However, whenever you cast a creature spell with power 7 or greater, Rakdos Unsealing deals 4 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control. Basically, if you have a 7-drop, then it is also a board wipe on a cast trigger, in a nutshell. So we have quite a few in this list. The ones we used to have were Nixithid. You may remember this card because when this got released, we were straight on the Unsealing train. We actually played Jund Unsealing with this one. Again, once I saw this card, I just knew that I had to go in for an Unsealing list, so you best know it with Death Shadow we're going in as well. So these cards are interesting because they are on the card themselves, they have very large numbers for their power and toughness. However, they're not as large as that because they always have an ability which is passive on the card, similar to something like Death Shadow that says it gets -X/-X, where X is your life total. However, Rakdos Unsealing does not care what power and toughness Death Shadow is when it resolves. It actually only cares about what power and toughness it is when it's on the stack, which means Death Shadow is a 1-mana 13/13 according to Rakdos Unsealing, which means it is a 1-mana deal 4 damage to each opponent, each creature, and each planeswalker your opponents control. Same for Nixithid, and same for Rotting Regisaur as well, which is a 3-mana 7/6, which comes with the downside of discarding a card. Nixithid getting -1/-1 for each card in your chosen player's hand. Basically, you play this in the late game when they're empty-handed. It's a 6/6 most of the time. It's pretty decent, actually, for a 3/3, and you don't have to wait on it too long before it's enabled. We do also have 2 others as well. Crox's just a little bit short of the 7 power that you really need for it, but it's still a pretty good card nonetheless, because when you enters, it makes your opponents discard, and when they do, there's a chance they lose 3 life, which is going to enable Scourge of the Skyclaves, another card that does some Rakdos Unsealing shenanigans. So we're set up in a way that we're going to be bolting ourselves to make sure that Death Shadow is castable as early as possible. We need to be on 12 or less life in order to make Death Shadow resolve and stick around. So we're going to be doing a lot of things like that, like bolting ourselves with Shatter Skull Smashings and Agadeem's Awakenings, and shocking ourselves with Blood Crypts and Thought Seizes. So we're going to be doing a lot of damage to ourselves, but we're not going to be doing too much to our opponent's face until we use things like Bone Crusher Giant Stomp and Crox's discard ability. So if we can get those going, that's pretty cool. Once Scourge of the Skyclaves gets up to 4 power though, then on their cast trigger, you actually get to 0.4 damage in whatever direction you want. So it's the highest life total on the board that really matters, so you can point it in that direction. You'll give Scourge a nice little kick in power and toughness, which is pretty sweet. Only a 2 of though, because we're not really all in on hitting our opponent's face immediately, as weird as that might sound, but yeah, we go a little bit more in on the Death Shadow side of things. As I mentioned, we've got lots of disruption. We do have the Thought Seizes to hopefully hit combo. The only cards that are really remaining in the list are 3 copies of Bloodchief's Thirst to help us survive a little bit, ping off things before we get to our Unsealing. We want to keep the board relatively clean. The rest can be blocked with our big boys. And then we got 2 copies of Embercleave as well. Considering we're making big boys, I kind of figured there'd be a chance that we could Embercleave our opponent. So hopefully we get ourselves a 13... No, well, it will be a 13. It'll be a 12/12 Death Shadow with Embercleave coming in, making it a 13/13 double strike in Trample. That sounds pretty cool to me. Typical Death Shadow lists always run things like Team of Battle Rage, which gives Trample and Death double strike, so figured, why don't we do the same and see how we go. We are kind of low on the mana count though, so we're only going to be running 2 copies of that. because I don't really see us casting it for anything less than like 4 mana at most, because we don't have too many creatures. Most of them are big boys who blow up the board, so that's essentially the idea. The mana base is full of things that can hit our life total as well to enable Death Shadow. So we've got some Raminat Ruins in here. We can pay 1 life to add red. Same thing for Ifnir Deadlands, but for swamps. And then they've got a little bit of removal and damage-based effects there as well, which hopefully I won't forget during today's video. But yeah, if you do enjoy today's video, I'd really appreciate if you do hit that like button, subscribe. You know the drill at this point. It all helps out a great deal. And I guess before we go into the games, I've got some packs to open, so you guys are always my lucky charms. Let's see what we get. I actually don't know if I even get anything. I do get something from this. Alright, what do I get? Coral Helm Chronicler. Yeah, I'm at 98% for this one, so I think it's just the garbage rares that are remaining at this point. But we do have 2 Kaldheim packs, so we're going to get those open. These are very much full of goodness, I think. Dragonkin Berserker, it's not bad. I remember during spoiler season, there was a lot of, this card is very good and we'll see lots of play, and has since seen no play whatsoever, so yeah. First instincts on it were very OP. In reality, nobody's really touched this card. I don't know whether or not that's, yeah, maybe it's underrated. Maybe I'll look into that. Let's have a look. Next Kaldheim card is gonna be Toski. Now this probably is very underrated, but has recently actually come out into the forefront as being a pretty solid card. You see a lot of this in like green-white mid-range lists now. I kind of want to play one, so you might see me net decking pretty soon, getting the green-white Toski list because it's pretty fun. Lots of tempo, like apparition stuff, and then you drop down a Toski and all of your little creatures end up drawing you a ton of cards, and you just outvalue your opponent. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, anyway, without further ado, let's continue, and yeah, hopefully you enjoy the video. This video is brought to you by the generous support of our wonderful patrons and channel members that you see here. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to cool content like sneak peeks, bonus videos, polls on future content, or access to a personal deck critique from myself every month, then hit the join button down below, or check out the Patreon link in the description. With all that said, let's get into the gameplay. Alrighty then, we're in, and this is a 4 damage turn 1 Thoughtseize, which is fine, because we can bolt our opponent, and that means that we're 4 points down, they're 2 points down, and that means turn 3 Scourge of the Skyclaves can be a thing, I suppose. Let's go for it. Double Thoughtseize as well could be really relevant in the right matchup. If it is like a combo list, then we'll want to be stripping them of their pieces that we need to push through. Opponent's already mulled as well, which is really nice. You love to see that. And it's Gruul. Okay, so we're already going to be losing loads of life. Let's just lose less life early on by getting rid of Burning Tree, I suppose. Bit of a spooky matchup for sure. I think we are going to be bolting our opponents so that I can play Scourge of the Skyclaves here. Yeah, I think that's probably for the best. If they do have a turn 2 play, then maybe it's boltable as well, or shockable with Stomp. So Pelt Collector. So I can Stomp our opponent, put them to 18, which means Scourge is now a 2-2. Play Castle Lochthwain, take the Rampaging Ferostodon. I think that's the right play anyway. Not sure I have to care too much about Coco. The other unknown is a land. I mean, it kinda has to care about Coco. I guess this actually helps me more than hurts me, right? Yeah, let's just take Coco. And then Scourge. If our opponent draws a land, then Croxa hits them for 3 and pumps up the Scourge of the Skyclaves, which is kind of nice. So So it's either they get rid of the awesome card in hand. I will take your damage, sir. Yeah, I think it's Croxer here. I could see Nixithid, though. It's a 5-5, a 4-4 after they draw their card. Any creatures are going to pump the Scourge as well. This has Menace, so I'm not blocking it. This might be my best time to get a Croxer piece of damage, though. I think it's probably Nixithid here, honestly. And then pass. So what could we use here? A Bloodchief's Thirst for Ferocidon would be fine, I suppose. Let's Croxy you, see if you drew 2 lands. So, discard. If it's non-land, fine. Anything else, though, pumps up my Scourge, which is really nice. So let's get in with the team. See if we get a double block on the Skyclave. No blocks at all. Fascinating. Alright, well, we are going to go with Bone Crusher Giant. Go down to 9. Our life total is actually the bottleneck for Scourge of the Skyclaves right now, funnily enough, so I think we've just been Ember Cleaved. But that puts us to 1. And thus victory is ours. Alright, well, wasn't the Rakdos Unsealing beatdown plan, but it was the alternative put them to -27 plan instead. Wow. Okay. Well, at least there's a beatdown normal backup plan, so we've got that going for us, I suppose, but it was far too close. Like, that was Gruul being extremely dirtly. So I imagine we don't win that matchup very often at all. Yeah, this has got to be jank. The deck that we're playing, there's no way it isn't. I do not believe it for a second that this deck can be competitive. The one before it, the Jund version, was much better, actually. But it was also in a different format where I think it was just before Muxus had even taken off, so, like, aggro was just mono-red at that point. It wasn't this nonsense, probably should have been banned, combo aggro. But, yeah. Either way, though, it's taken a different form, and I'm here for it. So, next game. Alright, opponent goes first. We have Rakdos Unsealing. We're up against a Kahira deck, which most likely means it's control. I think we keep this, though I'm not in love with it. Opponent's got some sick Kaldheim sleeves. Do like these. Yeah, blue mana Kahira. Grafdigger's Cage. Does that do anything? Stops Croxer. And that's it, really. I guess Academ's Awakening as well. Let's go with... I don't know, are we going to be Thought Seizing immediately, or do we want to Thought Seize when we can get a counter going? Oh, and we want to, like, resolve Unsealing. I feel like we don't want to be firing it off immediately. That might be a trap. Like, other than something like Surtress Canter, I don't really expect them to be throwing out anything too impactful here. Yep, that's just completely useless. So now we're kind of in a I've got nothing good to do kind of turn. So maybe this is where we Thought Seize into Grim Tutor for a land, so we have the Unsealing, maybe. Something like that. Opponent's shields are down as well. Shark Typhoon is really the only card I care about here. I'm not sure I'm that bothered about Wrath of God. Opponent's hand is garbage, which is good. But that means that they've got plenty of opportunity to top deck good cards. So I'm not here for that. Okay. Hits my Blood Crypt. I'll just get a Swamp. We don't have any double red outside of Embercleave, I don't think. I guess Shatter Skull Smashing, but that won't be necessary anyway. A lot of the doubles that we can't cast here, we're not going to be casting anyway. So they got some white mana. They're now somewhat fixed on their answers. So we're going to go Grim Tutor, I think, for... I don't even know. I don't even know. Let's make sure we use the pay here, though. I want to bring our life total down as low as possible, because I think what I want to go grab is Death Shadow. We've already got double unsealing. We're making our land drop. By the way, look at this. Oh, you can't actually see it. This tutor in the back. It's pretty cool. It's not for us, though. Maybe it's even just like a Croxer. It's a recurable threat. We'll find one eventually, though, right? Let's just take a Death Shadow. We're ready to cast that next turn. So we're going to bolt ourselves down to Death Shadow castable territory. Opponent does have the Searcherous Canter off the top. We drew the Croxer we were looking for. We go to 11, get a Sarkhan's Unsealing in play. If we draw a land, we get to double Unsealing into Death Shadow. These cards are going to be really problematic for our opponents, so they're in a horrible spot as well, because they need to make their land drops as a control player. That's kind of important to them, but they also need to find something like Teferi, so they can take care of these Unsealings. Just putting Kahira in hand is not going to get them there. And we're in. We're absolutely in. I think we're actually pinging ourselves a lot here so we can get a nice Death Shadow. Let's play Unsealing. And then Death Shadow as a 13/13 on the stacked triggers, so it's going to deal 8 to our opponent. And we got ourselves a 5/5, which is actually an 8/8 after I bolt myself with my lands. Opponent goes for the Baffling End, sure. Kind of knew that was coming anyway. So let's go Croxer. Hit you for 8. Croxer, make some discards. And then cast trigger from the Nyxothid. Another 8 points of damage as well. Bam, 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 bam. Oh, baby. Oh, Sarkhan's Unsealing, I do love you. I hope to one day find a format where you are actually a competitive list, because it's so cool. It's too much of a build around, though. The deck ends up being a little bit weaker when you don't have it, for sure. But is it just not the most glorious sight in the world when it goes off every single time you cast a card? Oh, I love it. Alright, well, next game. Okay, we are in. Opponent goes first, so we have a 2-lander and we can bolt ourselves and shock our opponent with a Stomp. That way we can get Scourge of the Skyclaves out on turn 3. Grim Tutor can get us the lands so we can guarantee the turn 4 sealing. Yeah, sure. I'm not certain where I stand with this one, but we do have a turn 1 Bloodchief Thirst as well, in case we do need to stop our opponent a little bit here, and I think it's probably in our best interest to do that. Red-white, maybe it's an Equipment Matters deck. So before they can get that pumped up, let's just get it out of the way. We don't mind getting hit in the face. Our Scourge is already castable, which is nice. Yeah, okay, so they are an Equipment Matters deck, so it really benefits us to kill absolutely everything that we can get our hands on here. I think because they went with the Sword of the Realms, it means they don't have a creature, so the Thoughtseize just doesn't appeal to me all that much. I think I'll just go with a Scourge here. That way, if our opponent doesn't have a blocker, I can bolt them, which is +2/+2 for us. And then we've got ourselves a 4/4 at that point. So they're going to get equipped. That's fine. It's annoying, but it's fine. So let's offer the trade here, because if I bolt, they're just going to trade off anyway, but this way I get some damage through, I suppose. Not exactly drawing the most appealing cards in the world. Yeah, I'm totally fine with this. They've already kind of proven that they didn't have the creatures, so if I just bolt the Fireblade Charger on the way back down when they try to equip it, then we're in a totally fine position, I would say. Just need them to whiff on that top deck that they just had there. So there's a land, there's a charger we know about, and here's the equip that we will then stomp. Colossus Hammer. Oh, maybe they've got the... Yeah, Resolute Strike, that's the one. How about no? Okay, so we take one, which puts us in good old Death Shadow range, which is fine. Sweet. We drew it. Do we actually want to play Croxer? Nah, we probably want to get down Death Shadow, honestly. Get down a 4/4. Shadow Spear. So what do we reckon that last card is? It's probably worth a look, considering we actually pump up our Death Shadow by having a peek. I reckon it's a land. But I think it's still worth looking at. It's a fling. Wow. Ambitious. Okay. So get in for 6. 3 cards in the yard. So Croxer's nowhere in sight, really. But we'll play it out for the 3 bolt damage. Put our opponent to 9. And if we play Grim Tutor, we actually present lethal here. Sweet! Wow, the beatdown plan on this deck is actually functioning better than the unsealing side of things. It's not too bad. I think we've had some dumb luck, though, to be honest. Our opponents haven't exactly drawn to the best of their abilities. This one kind of relied a little bit too much on its creatures as part of an equipment strategies deck. Who'd have thunk it? But, yeah, getting Death Shadow down nice and early is pretty cool. Pretty cool. I just wish we could get Unsealing down more consistently, but it's just, it just doesn't seem too viable, honestly. But either way, having fun, so let's go for another game. Okay, opponent goes first. They have Chandra sleeves, so we have to assume that they are a aggro deck. This hand is fine. It's not great. Does fine and not great mean that we should mull it on the draw? I'm not really digging for a Thoughtseize hand, necessarily, if I am to assume that they're aggro. I think we'll just keep this one. I think Stomp into very big booty creatures should be enough to stop our opponent from hitting me in the face repeatedly. And would you look at that? They were mono red. Alright, we are going to go with Dragon Skull Summit here. Since this hand currently has it always come into play tapped. Guardian Idol. Oh, is it big red? Spicy. I might want to be stomping here. In fact, I probably do, because next turn I'll bolt myself. They'll be on 18. I can play Scourge as a 2/2. I think that's the line. So what do we want to draw here? Honestly, let's just get ourselves some lovely Rakdos Unsealings. Just hand those over. Alright, let's get a little bit of the pressure going. I can't imagine Scourge lives very long, honestly, but we'll get him out anyway. Ooh, it is a Rakdos Unsealing. Okay. I'm going to bolt myself, play a Scourge as a 2/2. I think I'm doing that. Nixithid kind of just dies in the same way. Like, we could wait until Rakdos Unsealing comes down and hits our opponent, and then Scourge becomes a little bit bigger. In the meantime, we go with Bone Crusher Giant instead, which blocks the Guardian Idols a little bit better. I think maybe that's the plan. The problem with this matchup is there is no doubt that our opponent is running 19 million copies of Ugin the Spirit Dragon, which just -4s and hits our Rakdos Unsealing, loses in the game on the spot. So there is that. But maybe we don't have to deal with that absolute nonsense, that tire fire of a card. Doubtful, but one can dream. Ooh, pumping up my Scourge. Nice. At this stage, I guess I wouldn't mind not having to bolt myself to play Unsealing here, since the rest of my hand is kind of just fine. Another Unsealing. Well, it looks like I am going to have to bolt myself to play Unsealing. That's not too bad, though. Scourge is a 4/4 that will hit our opponent and give it +4/+4, so it'll come down as a 6/6. Unless our opponent hits us with Faceless Haven / Guardian Idols. Which, you know, is a weird spot to be in, because they could just beat us down and kill us the same way anything else could. So again, I would really like land off the top so I could play Scourge plus Nixithid or Regisaur, I think. Embercleave. Well, we didn't get that. So this is Faceless Haven here. Pay 1, activate, pay 1, activate. We're taking 4, going down to 2. Currently. So this is a 5/5. It's a 4/4 when our opponent draws, though. I think we just go Scourge. Hit our opponent. Got ourselves an 8/8. It's lethal with Embercleave next turn, I guess. If it lives. Which is questionable, to say the least, I guess. We might be dead ourselves. And being forced to block the Faceless Haven at this rate means that they might have enough damage in board. Oh yeah, the Invalidator. There he is. He's arrived. It was only a matter of time, wasn't it? -4. Make everything I've done up until this point completely useless. I need Death Shadow off the top now. Unsealing into Death Shadow is basically my best chance of survival here. Oh! There is a magic god. Goodbye, Ugin. You're at 8. Are we dead? Do you have another Ugin? What were the odds of that? Like 7%, I think, something like that. Take those odds. They don't happen every day. Oh, is the Ugin player really upset? I'm not sure. Are you upset? They might be trying to figure out lethal here. It's possible that they actually have it. If they have land, then they pay the 3 to do the Faceless Haven, the land to do 1, the Mind Stone to do the other. Khan the Great Creator. So we're checking their sideboard, I guess. So 4 mana remaining. What can they get for 4 mana that is an artifact that deals with Death Shadow in red? Artifact that deals with Death Shadow in red at 4 mana. Maybe they assume they're not dead, which would be an incorrect assumption. Because they know I've got this Lochthwain. Ancestral Statue. So this returns a non-land permanent, but that's their turn. That means that they're dead. I'm gonna do the Ember Cleave thing. I've decided. You block, I cleave. We could also do Nixithid plus Rotting Regisaur, I think, with our mana, and that is 8 damage as well. But Ember Cleaved up Death Shadow just, I don't know. Seems like we're not going to get that much in a video today, so I figured I'd take my chance while I still had it. And have a big boy with a big old sword that should be banned in Standard. Maybe not in Historic. I think it's maybe fine in Historic, but Standard, get rid. Anyway, next game. We're doing alright with this list. Good lord. Opponent goes first. I feel like most of the time we've been playing today, we've actually been on the draw. It's not necessarily been too bad, though, because we've always needed a card in our 7-card hand that enables our deck. And this one doesn't feel much different. Like, we could Bloodchief's Thirst our opponent's turn 1 play. If they are auras, then Bloodchief's Thirst and Bone Crusher Giant are going to be pretty decent. If it's Pyromancer, it's not going to be that effective, I don't think. But if it's Pyromancer, they have Thoughtseize, or Rakdos Arcanist, whatever you want to call it. They have Thoughtseize, so mulling against the Thoughtseize list is not a good idea either. I think because I do not have red mana, therefore invalidating the chance of this actually being a thing, I want to probably hit the mull on that. Alright, this is maybe exactly what you hope for. Let's go for Nixithid down here. Leave ourselves with 3 mana, pathway on red for Bone Crusher Giant. We just got a Bloodchief's Thirst, which is not too bad either. So let's see what we're working with. Lurrus List. Might be helping them out here with the Thoughtseize, but... So, is this their version of Death Shadow then, maybe? Who do you want to get rid of here? I guess you get rid of Claim, because Claim just grabs back absolutely everything here. We've got a double Fabled Passage hand as well, which can't be doing them many favours. Maybe we'll take Claim. Like, I saved the Bloodchief's Thirst for the Arcanist. If they stomp, if they shock themselves to play Scourge, then I can stomp it. Boop. And do I want to bolt myself? I actually think I don't. I think our opponent is going to do enough damage for the both of us, so I think I'll just go tap land there. We'll keep in mind for later as kind of a for science kind of moment whether or not... Fun Ruiner. I know I Thoughtseized you, but still. Fun Ruiner nonetheless. For science, we'll see whether or not that 3 points would have mattered. I think with the Ruins able to bring my life total down naturally and slowly and steadily, it's probably totally fine. I want to keep my life total high as well because I know that they have a Scourge in hand. And currently, either one of us losing life is enough to make that Scourge harder to deal with a Bone Crusher Giant. We know they have the Village Right, so we don't want to be trying to kill it because we won't get very far. Should have played the Ruins, I guess. Yeah, they're already at, like, Scourge resolving situation right now. I think I actually go Bone Crusher Giant. This means they can't get me down to 17, and they go up to 19, which doesn't do their Scourge much good either. Young Pyromancer. Alright, they found the Shocklands. Thoughtseize my Croxer. He's almost ready to come out. We got a new Croxer as well. So I hit for 4, they hit me for 3. Yeah, or we get the block, which is also fine. Let's go Croxer, make them discard. See if it's a Scourge. If it isn't, then we know that's what they're planning on playing. Yeah. It's in a good spot now, but we do have Croxer hopefully next turn. If I can draw like a Thoughtseize or a Bloodchief's Thirst. Opponent's got a 6/6. Alright, well, we get to stomp you. Oh, wait. Oh. Wait, what? Game? Are you kidding me? Alright, well, we know why we lost this game. Huh. Of all the moves our opponent, our shuffler could make, our auto-tapper, whatever. That's unreal. I was hoping to trade off my Bone Crushers with the Scourge there. Because that would have enabled my Croxer and taken their biggest threat off the board. The logic was all there. But apparently I took all the logic away from the auto-tapper and there was just none left. Yeah, now they get to Thoughtseize to take their life total down a little bit lower, pumping the Scourge. So it's an 8/8, but we still trade off, so that's kind of cool. Gonna go with the Village Rites. Guess that also makes sense as well. Forced to block the Scourge of the Skyclaves here. I think I'm gonna double block it. Maybe Village Rites in response. Maybe a Braid, yep. I mean, technically none of this should be happening right now in a world where the game isn't an idiot. The actual factual first game that we have lost. Well, it's not lost yet. I think it's pretty much lost, but came down to the shuffler. So we get a Croxer down. We got a 10/10 and a 6/6. I guess if our opponent didn't just top deck a Claim to Fame or a Fatal Push, that should do it because they've got Fatal Push for Arcanist. Yep. If we top deck an Embercleave there, then we win. I'm tilted, honestly. I'm really tilted. That was our perfect record just down the drain. It just... Yes, of course, I could pay more attention. But at no point do I ever assume that the game will decide that tapping me completely out of red when the next spell after my Stomp, the only spell I can cast, is another red spell. There's no way I would assume that the computer would be stupid enough to do that. But it is, so here we are. Here we are. Well, first game down. Disappointing, to say the least. That seemed mostly winnable. I think we'd lose it anyway. Our opponent did run really well. And they Thoughtseized our Unsealing at the right time as well, so I think with an Unsealing we could have maybe done some serious damage here, but womp womp. Next game. You go first. Doesn't happen very often, but we take them when we can. This hand is totally fine. Yep. We're not exactly doing anything exciting with our Bloodchief's Thirst off the bat. Maybe that means I want to play Ramnat Runes and just tap it for red so that we go down to 19 on purpose. I think we leave that possibility open to us. Because if I go down to 19... Ketria... Game. I can't blame it too much for that one. Because obviously it just assumes you don't want to tap your mana for no apparent reason. But I was going to put us down to 19 so that we stomp our opponent. They go down to 18, which means the Scourge is playable. That was the plan. It never happened. Alright, well, we can still kind of just do exactly the same thing. We're up against Neostorm, which basically means unless I draw a Thoughtseize and our opponent never draws the combo, we've already lost. We are 2 turns away from losing. There is, from what I can tell, nothing we can really do about that. Let's play Scourge of the Skyclaves. Bloodchief's Thirst, the Wall of Blossoms. Open up the possibility of making a large Scourge to maybe Embercleave our opponent for the win. I think that's their only out. Bolts to go to 4. Why did they bolt? It's kind of what I want to know. We've lost. There's no way. I've already played against it today and they killed me on turn 4 out of nowhere, so I don't really expect it to be any different. They'll keep the Wall of Blossoms around. We're dead no matter what our life total is, so let's just make it as low as possible. And then play a Croxer as well. And it's probably already GG. Opts to the top. Nope, to the bottom. Wow. Okay. Ah, the cynic in me is coming out. Gets rid of an opt. Bolts. Stormcaller, Neoform. Turn 4 every time without fail. And the Tuk-Tuk Rubble Forts and Combat Celebrants are probably in their deck. I'll let this one play out, because there's a part of me that still hopes and dreams that the combo's in hand and they're trying to bait me into scooping early. I did also have a comment recently asking about this combo, so the one time, obviously, I don't let it play out on camera. This is the one time somebody in my comment section hasn't seen it before. So basically, they're going to go dual Caster Mage, over and over and over again. Eventually, they get to Glasspool Mimics, so that'd be why you're wondering why there's 8 dual Caster Mages. Tuk-Tuk Rubble Fort gives them all haste, Celebrant gives them an extra combat step. And then we die. And it happens on turn 4 every single game without fail, as long as you're me. So, yeah. It's a shame we didn't draw a Thoughtseize, because if they only had one Neoform, none of this would have happened, and we might have won. But it's hindsight. We can't really just mull to a Thoughtseize because we assume it's Neostorm, because that's just asking to lose. Now we're on just a wonderful, horrible losing streak. I really need to end this on a win, so let's go for another one. You go first. We have mostly nothing to do, but I'm going to keep it anyway, because it's got Rakdos Unsealing. And I would really like to end today's video with an Unsealing to end all Unsealings, so at least we have 2 lands. We have a playable Stomp for our opponent's early game creature. Maybe if they're like elves, then we get rid of a Llanowar Elves or something like that. Here's hoping. Tormod's Crypt, Spire of Industry, and an Emery. Alright, that's worth bolting. So we are up against what looks to be like a paradoxical outcome list, if I had to guess. I haven't actually seen this one, but I've heard about it. So let's try and get rid of Emery. That shuts off the Mox Amber, at least for now, and stops them from getting their 0 drops and whatnot back. We need a land off the top. This is not exactly the Rakdos Unsealing matchup, to be honest. Because our opponent kind of doesn't really care about their board state being established, necessarily. I'm going to go for a Grimtroot, and I'm just going to go get a land. Or grab a mountain. I'm not even taking the risk of not drawing one. And then basically we drop down Unsealing, and then from there, every single card we cast is a board wipe that also hits our opponent for 4. And we kind of hope that that just gets us there, really. So, Unsealing. Hope for no Metallic Rebuke. Did they put that in the Kaladesh Remastered? I'm guessing by the delay that it's possible. But not going to happen. Alright. I don't know how efficiently this Paradoxical Outcome list wins, but I know it needs Aetherflux Reservoir. It definitely needs Inspiring Statuary. It's from the new Historic Anthology, even though it has, you know, Kaladesh Remastered looking symbols on it. It's from the Historic Anthology, so... alright. What are we doing here? We are blowing up the board, but how do we choose to do it? Can I hit myself with this? 4 damage to any target, so I could go down to 11 with Bone Crusher Giant and then play Death Shadow. Is that a good idea? Guess it's not a bad idea. Hit me. Kind of achieves the same goal, except for I get 2 creatures down instead. And then Death Shadow, 4 to each creature our opponent controls and their face. And we have a 2/2. Alright, every card we cast now will deal 4 damage to our opponent's face. Plus the 6 that's already here. It's a pretty fast clock. Is it fast enough, though? That's the question. So non-artifact spells have Improvise, which basically means they can use the artifacts in play to tap them to pay for the colorless cost. So 1 blue plus a tap, tap, tap is your Paradoxical Outcome mana there. One has got a Joyra for card advantage here. An Ornithopter draws. And then they've got the mana for Paradoxical Outcome. Are they actually going to combo off here? I'd say it's very probable. Mox Amber. Legend rules it. Yeah, I think we're dead. If we're not dead, we kill a combo piece by playing our deck out. So maybe there's a chance. As I said, this is the first time I'm seeing this list, so I kind of want to watch it play out. I mean, I'm certainly not going to scoop to what they're doing right now, but I might consider it if I saw an Aetherflux Reservoir or something like that. They're going to go with a Burgy. So it gives them 1 red mana whenever they cast a spell. So that's going to net them mana on 0-cost artifacts. There's a Mox Amber. Opponent is popping off, so they draw a card, they gain 1. As long as they've got 4 mana through Improvise, they can do Aetherflux Reservoir. So he is hoping they don't have that. I think they win on the spot if they have it, in a nutshell. Because it costs them virtually nothing to cast it. And the mana they net is enough to play a Reservoir if they find it off these draws, which they're drawing off of the zeros. Yeah. And then those zeros are netting mana. Ornithopter. It's not the list that I'd heard about. The mono blue is what I'd heard about originally. But I guess Joyra is doing a thing. And so is Burgy. I think Burgy's seen some vintage play, right? Vintage and Legacy. It's got some combo shenanigans to it. So, I guess if they've got another Paradoxical Outcome, I'll scoop to that. Oh, really? Oh, opponent, you are in such a bad state. Oh, no. I am literally going to kill you with a cast trigger. Alright, discards the hand size. They're going to lose their combo pieces. I guess I'm going to go with the Rotting Regisaur because I've got 7 cards in hand, which means this enters as a 0/0. So let's Rotting Regisaur instead. Deal 4 to everything on board and our opponent's face. Even if they counter the Regisaur, the damage is done on this cast trigger here, so they need like a Tail's End to counter a triggered ability. Alright. Well, they kind of whiffed. Yeah. They kind of whiffed, so I didn't really expect them to be able to pick up the pieces following that, because I think the problem that they had was they didn't find their second paradoxical outcome. So, for the sake of explaining this deck, essentially, they are a paradoxical outcome, so they're returning over a non-land token permanence and draw a card for each of them. Obviously, they're going to bounce some zeros, which means they can recast them immediately, and they had Joyra, so that when they cast his historic spells, these free ones, they would get to draw a card off of that as well. So they're drawing 2 for every 0 drop that they have in play. So the idea is you're going to try and chain together paradoxical outcomes so that you can draw your entire deck. The whole purpose of that is to cast enough spells that you eventually have the mana to cast Aetherflux Reservoir, which says when you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell that you've cast that turn. From there, you gain so much life that you get up to 50, and 50 your opponent in the face, and short of like the Green-White Angels list, there's not really many decks that get to 50 and haven't already won the game, so you should be able to instantly kill your opponent with this one. It's definitely a list I want to play. I don't know if I'd want to play this list specifically. It looks very spicy. I'm just not entirely sure that you need to go out of blue, but maybe our opponent has kind of proven that... I don't know. Proven with the whiff potential even while they were drawing 2 cards off Joyra and gaining mana off Bergie. Maybe it is correct here. Put these 2 bad boys in. But yeah, anyway, that's going to do it for today's video. I guess the verdict on our list as well is it's fine. I feel like I've gotten a bit of a weird set sample today, because a lot of the matchups we played ended up having like a control player without any threats, and Gruul that was a little bit dirtly, so I'm not sure if I really want to count those matches as proper matches, but we did actually kind of win a lot today. I think we won 6 times and lost 2 or 3 times, something like that. So we've done pretty well for ourselves. It's definitely had a positive win record. It's just I don't know how I would rate some of those wins. I guess we also did have a loss that was brought by the auto tapper as well, so if we're not counting some of those wins, then let's not count one of those losses either. But yeah, I don't know. I would kind of hesitate crafting this deck if I were you and I was thinking about crafting it. If you already have the cards though, by all means fire it off. It's a load of fun. Nyxothids came from Jumpstart, so if you opened enough of them, that's cool. Death Shadows from the latest anthology. Eldraine and M20, pretty much from the time when Magic was at its worst, so maybe you already had the nonsense rares at that point. And yeah, an M19 rare, I think that's when it started going downhill, was M19, right? Something like that, I don't know. Either way though, hopefully you guys have enjoyed today's video. I'm done rambling, so let's leave it off here. If you do enjoy the content, I really would appreciate it if you do hit that like button and subscribe. And let me know what you think of Unsealing down below, or even the possibility of seeing the opponent's deck here as well. Let me know if you want to see that kind of content. Other than that, though, take care, guys, and have a wonderful night.